The myth of outsourcing compliance. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so Randy, we hear this all the time from our customers and prospects, and they tell us that, well, we don't have to worry about cybersecurity within our network because our credit card merchant or our EMR, EHR platform for HIPAA compliance,
right.
they're HIPAA compliant and our data is stored there.
Okay.
So, and they market that in such a way it's almost deceptive marketing and say, hey, our platform is 100% HIPAA compliant, or our merchant service is PCI compliant, and so on.
Right.
And so it's kind of like the old marketing ploy that they used to use with breakfast cereals, where they said, Cheerios, this is an important part of this nutritious breakfast. Now they're showing you a picture of a bunch of other stuff there.
There's other stuff in the picture,
but we hear important and nutritious, and then next thing you know, you got a whole generation of people that are just eating Cheerios for breakfast.
All I need to eat is cereal.
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
So you want to be cautious of that. Just because they're HIPAA compliant, or they say they're HIPAA compliant, that does not resolve your organization from taking the proper steps to ensure you're compliant as well.
Because ultimately, you're responsible.
Ultimately, you are, and especially, in healthcare, we hear this all the time that, if there is a major breach, it really doesn't matter. You're actually responsible to make sure that your vendors are compliant.
I got you.
Under HIPAA law. So that's something to keep in mind. So.
Right. Okay. Speaking of which,
yeah,
HIPAA compliance in healthcare. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's all kinds, as you're probably aware, if you're in healthcare, you've heard HIPAA tons of times, and there's tons of cybersecurity protections that you should have in place. The actual requirements change over time because a lot of it is best practices, and so it's something you always have to keep up with. You should be doing annual SRAs, or security risk analysis, or assessments, and so that's super important. But I've got some examples here where the courts have basically, these are people in healthcare that thought that they didn't have to do those cybersecurity protections, and the court decided otherwise.
Said,
so
you do.
So there was a QRS Inc. breach that exposed PHI of 319,000 patients.
Wow.
The healthcare providers using QRS faced legal consequences for not ensuring vendor security measures that met HIPAA standards. So essentially, somebody that they were using was breached, and so they had to, they suffered the consequences, even though it wasn't their data or internally.
But ultimately, they were responsible.
Yep, absolutely. And Scripps Health ransomware attack, that disrupted Scripps Health, exposing gaps in data recovery partnerships. It underscored the need for compliance audits for all healthcare partners. And another one here, Cascade Eye and Skin Centers was fined $250,000. That'll keep you up at night,
keep you awake,
after a ransomware attack. So there were probably lots of other expenses,
lots of other things too.
That was just the fine.
That was just the fine they got,
not their total cost. Due to inadequate risk analysis and monitoring, the case highlighted the risks of over-relying on third-party systems for security.
Wow, okay.
So again, they probably thought that their provider, their EHR provider, was
taking care of them.
Compliant.
Right.
They didn't have to do all the steps that they needed to do. So,
Ouch.
So in healthcare, it's super important that you follow all the rules to make sure your network is HIPAA compliant, and regardless of what your EMR, EHR is doing. So we tell everybody, if you access, store, transmit, or create PHI, patient health information, on your devices, those devices have to be protected.
They have to be protected under these guidelines. Wow. And you have a free $2,500 healthcare assessment, I do believe.
We do, absolutely. Cybersecurity risk assessment, and we'll put that up at the end, and so we'll do that for any business.
Excellent.
And just do an analysis to make sure that you're doing all the things that you need to do to be compliant.
Right. And now financials, FTC safeguards rule and anything financial services also.
So the Grant-Billy Leach Act has been around for years, but a couple of years ago they finally put it into law, and they called it the FTC safeguards. And essentially now anybody who handles financial information for consumers is required to meet all those cybersecurity requirements.
As well.
You have to protect that data. And so many of it, they line up with the requirements that HIPAA and PCI have as well.
Gotcha.
So your attorneys, car dealerships,
mortgage companies,
accountants, all those people.
All of those.
Yep. So And so I have some examples here where some of those had similar issues.
Sure.
So Ascension Data and Analytics exposed mortgage holder information due to a vendor's unsecure cloud storage. So again, they were using a third party.
I see a theme here.
Yeah, exactly. They thought it was secure.
Right.
The FTC required Ascension to enhance data security and vendor oversight. So essentially, they just, the sanctions say you got to do these things. You probably gave them a time frame.
Right, sure.
So Nation Star Mortgage was scrutinized by the FTC for poor vendor management, again, serving as a caution to the industry on the importance of vendor compliance and checks. So it's not just your network, but you got to make sure that your vendors are doing what they say they're doing as well.
Absolutely.
Yep, and then Wyndham Worldwide was penalized for inadequate security on its local network despite using third-party servers. This case set a precedence affirming internal responsibility for data security. So again, it's the same situation. The FTC is holding each individual business accountable for doing what they're supposed to be doing, and even verifying that their vendors are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yes, I see, like I said, a theme here with vendors. It's very important to have your vendors adhere to these guidelines.
Oh yeah, and again, we hear it over and over again. Well, I don't have to do that because my vendor's taking care of it. Unfortunately, that also means you got to watch over your vendor and you got to watch over your
That's not
network.
an excuse.
Exactly. Even if they're saying, hey, we're HIPAA compliant, we're PCI compliant. So,
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
Number 4, PCI compliance in credit card processing.
Yeah.
This pretty much involves everybody.
It does,
Pretty
Randy.
much?
And so almost every business now accepts credit cards to some levels. Now there's different levels of PCI. So if you're under a certain number of transactions a year, then your requirements aren't as stringent.
Okay.
But everybody's under it to some degree.
Sure.
And so we have a few here to talk about. One is the Target breach, 2013. And,
heard about that one. Yes.
And it was an HVAC vendor that actually got in there. Now,
really?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about IoT devices. I don't know for sure. I think this was actually a user account. But one of the things important to remember within your network is that now we have to, even your thermostats are connected to the network.
True.
If that thermostat has a vulnerability, an attacker could insert malicious code into your network.
Wow, never thought about that.
So, but in this case, it was actually a spear phishing attack. One of the HVAC vendor's employees' accounts got hacked through spear phishing. So they got an email, they clicked on something they shouldn't. And then they used that user's account with the HVAC vendor to access the Target network. Because the vendor had access to Target, because they were monitoring their heat and energy efficiency.
Right, in all the stores.
Yep.
Wow.
So, and that resulted in an $18.5 million settlement that Target had to pay out because their HVAC vendor messed up.
Ouch.
Yeah,
be careful.
That would hurt.
Be careful. Ouch.
So again, don't count on your vendors. You got to verify. Yep. Heartland Payment Systems, an SQL injection attack exposed millions of credit card records, and Heartland faced $145 million in damages and was banned from processing credit cards until it restored compliance.
Wow, what a hit.
Wow, pretty intense there. So
yes.
Merchants mistakenly think that third-party processors cover all compliance needs, and PCI DSS requires merchants to secure their own networks using firewalls, encryptions, and regular scans. And so that one just reiterates how the PCI payment card industry is looking at you as a merchant provider.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and when I say merchant, actually a merchant user, because usually you're not processing cards directly anyway.
Sure, it's through another party. Sure.
But you have access to many times and actually enter the credit card information, or you're scanning it through devices on your network.
Right.
Which means you have to secure it. So
you have to secure it. So do these other vendors, do they do security updates for their own systems and provide information to their clients that, hey, you're safe, you're good to go?
They should. And many of them don't. Many of them just win the marketing game, and so
then that's all they care about.
And so that's they've said they're PCI compliant.
Right.
We hope that they take those measures.
Sure.
That they're supposed to be taking and doing regular training, like with the HVAC company.
Yeah.
If they were doing cybersecurity training, that employee may not have fallen for that phishing
They could have
attack.
caught that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's your responsibility if you're using those third-party vendors to verify that they are.
That they are
And I
doing
think it's
that.
completely fair to ask for monthly
absolutely.
reporting and all that.
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
stuff,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
In this
Okay.
day and age, because as you can see, the
Yes.
the regulatory industries and
They're coming down hard on
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
Right.
you're responsible. So don't hesitate to ask your vendors to provide that.
And you
information.
also say compliance is a shared responsibility.
It is a shared responsibility. Cybersecurity in general is a shared responsibility.
Right.
Even us as an IT vendor, like
Sure.
we
Oh,
can
yeah.
put all the controls in place,
Oh, sure.
but we can't make your employees do the training. We can't, keep them
That's
aware.
left up to you
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a business owner to
Yeah.
make sure you're up to date with those trainings.
Yeah. Now we can work with HR if we're
Oh, sure.
managing
Oh,
compliance.
absolutely. Oh, yeah.
But ultimately, that's not an IT problem. That's an HR problem, and so you have to make sure that
Right,
you're.
that filters down through the organization for
Yeah.
those requirements.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, back to the free
Yes.
$2,500 cybersecurity assessment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's an incredible value. There's no obligation or pushy sales
Mm-hmm.
tactics or anything like that. We're on a mission to protect our local businesses and healthcare providers
Right,
here
right.
in Central Kentucky. And so this is a fantastic tool that was made available to us through one of our partners called Galactic Advisors.
Okay.
And it's a $2,500 network assessment. It's kind of like a penetration test.
Sure, sure.
We get lots of information about the security protections that you have in place and your compliance. And then we get the reports back and we present that to you. If you'd like, we can present a proposal as well to fix those
yeah,
things.
absolutely, absolutely.
But
right.
if not, if you already have a provider or you have in-house IT, you can present that to your team or your provider, and they can deal with those issues for you as well. So
yeah, and it's completely free.
Yeah, completely
That's-
free. No reason not to take advantage of it. Yeah.
What today is completely free, worth $2,500?
Yeah, exactly.
Not much.
No, not at all.
Right. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yep. So you can find us on the web at isafecomplete.com.
Okay.
Of course, we're on all the social medias.
Sure,
And if you scan the QR code that we're going to put up, you can
Absolutely.
get signed up immediately for that free network assessment.
Wow, fantastic. I know Bob and his team does a fantastic job. Please reach out, isafecomplete.com, because cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
That's right. That's good.
It's just part of the world we live in.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.